Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. We are live. Sarah's in the studio today.
Hello.
And she will be here to answer any of the questions that you have as we paint. So if you do have a question for me or her, just write the word question in all caps, and that way she'll see it. If it's something the moderators can help you with, they will be right there and ready to help. So if it's something that gets asked repeatedly, they're probably going to just jump in and help you out there. So so people don't have to hear me repeat myself a bazillion times. We are going to paint sunflowers, and this was a little practice piece that I did, and I like the colors and I like some of the texture in the background, but what I didn't like is how stiff the sunflowers felt. So I'm going to have a different approach when we paint on this larger paper underneath. I'm going to show you my reference photos, which I have linked in the video description. This is the photo I found on Pixabay that I really loved for this soft background, almost pastel-y colored background, but I didn't want to get the vase or the picnic basket in there. So what I did was I just cropped it and printed it out a little bit larger so I could see the detail in the flowers and a little of the background, and kind of got rid of the stuff I didn't need. We are going to start with a wet and wet wash. All of the supplies I'm using can be found at our sponsor, jerrysartorama.com. They actually have, if you go on the website, there is a coupon code for 10% off your entire purchase, sale and regular price of papers and canvases. So you can't use a coupon on sale items, but you can use a coupon on that sale. I did it myself because I had to stock up on some papers. So it's over tonight. I just wanted to let you know if you needed some paper. To make wetting this background a little easier, I'm just going to spritz it with water. And then use my big, actually, you know what? I think a big paper like this would be better to use. A nice big 2-inch flat. And this is a Mimic Faux Squirrel. Both of those brushes were in the value pack. I really recommend that if you can swing it. It's a wonderful set of brushes, and it's probably going to be the last set you'll need if you take care of them. Get that paper nice and shiny. And we're going to mix up some color on our palette. We are going to use, and a lot of times I'll just grab a synthetic brush when I'm going to grab out color because it will bring me less water and more color, and then it's a little bit easier to deal with. I'm going to be getting some lemon yellow here. This is a Sennelier lemon yellow. I got the set of 12 plus 6 free watercolor set. That's probably the best deal if you're looking for Sennelier paints. You could also use a student grade if you have those. I think there's a lot of the same colors. So I've got the lemon yellow. I've got some Gamboge from Winsor & Newton I'm going to pull out here too. Our background's going to be really soft color. I'm going to grab a little bit of olive green, which is a Sennelier color, but it's not one that comes in the kit. I actually bought a tube of it and put some in a pan. And that's a great thing about just buying like an empty palette and filling it yourself, is you can get exactly the colors you want. So if you're looking at a set and it doesn't have the colors you want, skip it and just get yourself an empty palette. And I'm getting a little bit of Carmine here. You can use any sort of pinkish red if you don't have Carmine, like a magenta or quinacridone rose. And I think I will grab out a little bit of violet while I'm at it. I think I'm going to have to just set this on on another portion of my palette off camera, but it's Dioxazine Violet. All right. So when you're painting a background, sometimes people will tell me their paint doesn't flow, and I think what's happening, it's not so much that their paint's not flowing, it's that their brush. Look at a hair in here. Their brush.
Chewy hair?
No, I think it's a long blonde one, so I'm pretty sure it's mine.
Not chewy hair.
Not chewy hair. Is that your brush is too dry and your paper's too wet, because your water and paint is going to go wherever it is driest. So if your brush is dry, it's going to suck water off of the paper. If your paper is a little bit drier than your brush, and it's going to release the paint on there. So I have no problem getting this paint onto my background because the paper is a little bit drier than my brush. Now I am using the Langton Prestige. I really like that paper. You can use whatever you have. My sample was done on inexpensive Aqua Bee. I'm just going to try to figure out where I want my flowers to be by my reference photo. And I'm putting the yellow, the kind of sunnier yellow down there, because I'm not sketching on. I'm going to kind of let the painting tell me where the flowers should end up. This is not a really, I don't find my paints go too crazy on this paper, so that's fine. You don't need it to just be bursting off of your brush. But I wanted to let you know that about the background in case you have, you know, a problem with your paint coming off your brush onto your paper. I'm going to grab some of the olive and add that kind of around my yellow spots. And remember, our paper is very wet. Our paint is very wet. This is going to shift. It's going to get lighter when it dries. And grab some of that pink. And when the pink mixes with green or yellow, it's really going to cut down on the intensity, make it look a lot more natural looking. This is a wet into wet wash. And this is a number 30 round I'm using. Yeah.
Valerie Martin, did you see that Prima is coming out with 2 new paint palettes?
I did. They look really pretty too. I hope to try them both. Now I want to get a little texture in here, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to be getting color that I don't want on my flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some burnt umber, which is another color we're going to be using. Get that, get a nice puddle of that. I'm using my big brush because I want it pretty soupy. I think I want to do some of that with the yellow as well.
Gracie Shack, have you a recommendation of the Aqua Blends watercolor pencils?
Yes, I like them.
Rajashri Gosh, I was wondering what's the difference between 100% cotton papers from different brands like Arches, Fabriano, Strathmore, Langton Prestige, Clairefontaine, etc.
There's minimal difference. If it's 100% cotton, it's going to be a good quality paper, but sometimes like Arches has a lot of sizing in it. Fabriano has less sizing and it's actually different sizing. So there's subtle differences, but quality wise, I would say they're all very similar quality if they're an artist grade. And then beyond that, it's more just what you want in a paper. I think I just got a, I either got paint on my computer monitor or I got paint on my lens. I'm not exactly sure which. Let me see. Oh, I don't see it on your monitor, so that's good. I think it's just on my monitor. I gotta be careful with that. Okay, and I am going to just lift off a couple little spots because I know I'm probably going to want some kind of where I think the top of some of these flowers are going to be because I didn't get the highlights lifted off on my sample and I had to use colored pencil and I don't really want to do that this time. So, all right, and I'm going to be drying this. While I'm drying, please feel free to give me any of your questions. If you are painting along, look for any puddles. If you see any puddles, you can either gently dab the edge of a tissue in it or you can wipe off your brush really dry and set that in your puddle to soak up any excess. Otherwise, you're going to end up with cauliflowers, which is fine, but if you don't want them, that's how you avoid them.
Watercolor Gypsy, I've been debating on upgrading my colored pencil set. I don't know whether to get Prismacolor because they are more affordable or polychrome because they're better quality.
Personally, I prefer Prismacolor because they're more opaque, and I tend to use my colored pencils in mixed media work. So I go on top and I lay down. I like to be able to lay down really striking passages of light and dark on top of other layers. Polychromos are quite transparent. That's what you get with an oil-based pencil. They're more transparent, whereas a wax pencil is more opaque. And they're really nice, but I also like to work on colored paper, so I really need a more opaque pencil. I also really like Derwent Color Soft. They only have 72 colors in the range versus 150 of Prismacolor, but I find their leads to be stronger and don't break, but they seem to be just as soft and opaque as Prismacolor. So it really comes down to personal preference. If you're always going to work on white paper and, you know, and you want a transparent pencil, then polychrome is a better choice. If you want a more opaque pencil, then I would go with Prismacolor. And there are some fantastic deals on them right now. And people have told me they've bought some recently and they haven't had the breakage issue, like a breakage issue more than what you would expect with them. So personally, I just get the Prismacolors, but that's up to you. I have both, by the way, and I use my Prismacolors like 10 times, probably 20 times more than I use my polychromos.
Pam Butler, what would it look like if you spattered with Oxgal?
Well, if I used Oxgal in water, it would give me more white splotches because it would kind of push the pigment away. But if I mixed Oxgal into the paint when I splattered it, it would maybe make the paint flow a little bit better, but I don't think it would be that obvious.
Gracie Shack, what was the Prismacolor tip for the leads breaking? I need to use what I have for art supplies.
Well, this tip is very much at your own risk. I don't want to be responsible for you setting your house on fire, but I microwave mine for about 5 or 6 seconds if they break. Or even better, if your lead falls out, just super glue it back in. Just put a little drop of super glue, pop it back in, and keep on going.
Pat M, what was the name of the yellow?
The lighter yellow was lemon, and the darker yellow was Gamboge. We're almost there, guys. Now I do have a pencil handy, and I'm going to do some very light sketching. I don't want to have the dark lines that I had on my sample piece here because I just think it made the flowers look a little too stiff. So I'm just going to put a few lines in to help me paint a background. And man, I'm getting so much lint in here today. It's crazy.
Deborah Sullivan, would it make sense to dampen the back of the paper as well as the front?
Some people do. I really don't think it matters. It's going to take longer to dry. I mean, this really didn't, I mean, now it's dry, it's nice and flat again. So, I mean, I wouldn't bother personally. Okay, so I don't know how many flowers I'm going to put in here. I think I'm going to start in the middle and work out. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you my reference photo. I think I'm going to go for this one, but I'm going to put it right here. So very lightly, I am going to get that center. And I'm dabbing. I'm just kind of stippling in that center. And you can't really see the whole thing. I'm just going to get a few petals. So we got some petals coming over the center flower here. And then we have some kind of coming off. Oh, this is a horrible pencil. I couldn't find my normal pencil that I use. I think I let somebody use it for homework and I never got it back.
Oh, it ended up staying with them.
Yeah, it was my favorite. It was my Pentel. I love those Pentel mechanical pencils.
Share favorite pencils and pens. You hide them. Everybody knows that, whether you have kids or not. I have pens that John has no idea that I have.
I love the 7.7 or 0.07 leads. Oh, love those.
Those are my favorite.
They're so smudgy and dark. Okay, so I've got this flower there very lightly. I want to put that flower in. I think I'm going to do this over here because I've got this nice little kind of brush of yellow. So I'm just going to, I'm kind of looking at my paper and seeing where I have this color anyway, and then working from it. So I'm getting in that line there. Really light, just little dots, and then I'm just gonna put a few petals. You don't have to put them all, just enough, however many you need to feel like you've got enough to work from. Now I was teaching a class the other night, and my student was having a really hard time getting her paint stick to her paper, and we're trying to figure out, does the paper have a defect to it or something? What's going on? Because we're all working on using the same paper. We're using Strathmore watercolor cards. And I said, gee, it almost looks like you just put lotion on and you got lotion and you smudged lotion on it. And sure enough, right when she had come into the library, she grabbed some lotion, and then when she was taping her paper down, she, you know, rubbed it with her fingers, and it left enough residue that it was making the paint not stick to areas. So if you have that issue, I mean, you're thinking, well, I've got bad paper. It could just be that you use some lotion before you begin painting, or you have some other, you have some oils on your skin. Maybe you pet your dog or something, or and they had oils on their fur. You could transfer oils very easily. And let's see, I kind of like this little guy here, and I've got a little space here that's just about perfect. So again, I'm going to get the center of this.
Kendall McCauley, when using Cotman paints, is it common to be adding a shadow color and end up having the previous layer sort of push out of the way and end up with hard lines, or is it just me?
That's pretty typical with most student paints, Cotman as well. Cotman is a student paint. It's because of the additional fillers and extenders and fillers they have to put in there to make the paint. That's how they bring the price down. They kind of dilute the paint a little bit with fillers. Cotman's a great paint, but lifting is one of its challenges because of that. So yeah, that's perfectly normal. Switch to a paper that doesn't have as much sizing in it. If you want to do glazing effects, there's a very inexpensive paper called Aquabee, which will work really well for that. That's actually what I painted this on. It just doesn't have so much sizing, so it tends to suck in the paint and water a little bit more, and then it won't lift. All right, and I think I'll put that one, but I'm just going to put like an oval to indicate that. I'm not going to put a lot of detail, and I think that one, but I'm going to shift it over and kind of have it. Actually, I kind of like what this is. I think I might turn that into a flower there, because I like that brown, the brown spatters. So I'm just going to give myself a few indication marks for that. Yeah.
Joe Maskey.
Oh, hello, Joe.
Have a Langton Prestige block, but haven't cracked into it yet. It looks like it lifted as well as arches with the wet background. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, I find this to be very comparable to arches. I really like it. I find that that it's a very robust, resilient paper. I bought the sheets. I didn't buy the block, but it should be about the same. And just want to get the indication for the center of that flower. And we are good to go on and start painting. I think I'm going to start by painting our yellow flower petals first, because then we'll be able to go around and do more background, and we'll know exactly what to avoid. Even though we did our little sketch here, it's just going to be a little easier. I'm going to switch to a number 12 round. And I'm going to start with lemon yellow. You could use Cad lemon, Windsor lemon, whatever you have. And your brush will really do all the work for you here. And I don't have to be careful about the middle of these flowers. I don't have to be careful about where it's going to be dark, because we can paint that on afterwards. So you can be very free here while you're painting. And since we're just using the lemon, you can just dip right into the pan. You don't have to mix it out. And this, I think, is going to keep us from getting too fussy with our strokes.
Kathy Whitney, I have some masking fluid that I've had for quite a while, and it has gotten really thick. Any way to thin it back out?
Well, you could probably use like ammonia. But I would see if it works the way it is before you mess with thinning it out too much. But I think it's ammonia that you thin it with.
Ian Jackson, how do you feel about the Langton paper?
I love it. I'm using that right now. I'm really pleased that I got that 10 sheet pack they had on sale right around Christmas time. It's fantastic. And then if you want to, while this is still wet, you can grab some Gamboge, and you can go ahead and just drip that in there and let it do what it wants to do.
Jen K, has Lindsay tried the Heritage line from Canson, or does she plan to?
Never heard of it, actually. Don't have any information on it. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on these other petals. We're going to start off with our lemon. Be free, guys. Just kind of make some movement in these petals. Make them feel alive. We don't want them fussy. My other ones were way so fussy. We're just so fussy. I had to figure out a way to not have these as fussy.
Don Snyder, with mermaid markers out of stock in stores, what would be the best DIY in an empty water brush? Blick liquid watercolor, Dynaflow, maybe just the tube watercolor watered to a liquid?
I wouldn't use a tube watercolor because of the pigment in it. You definitely want something that's dye-based. So like dilutions, inks, liquid watercolor, not like if you, any brand liquid watercolor, just not a pigment liquid color. So like say you were using Dr. P.H. Martin's, you wouldn't want to use the Hydrus, you'd want to use the Radiance. You want something that's a dye. The pigment will clog them and make a mess. So you could also use any sort of ink. I've not used Dynaflow, but I know that's what Jane Davenport used before, like she got that, where she would make her own. She has a video on YouTube on how she makes her water brush pens. So, and she tries all different kinds of inks, and she encourages people just to experiment. I definitely think if, as long as it's a thin, like you can see through it, liquid, you're going to be fine.
Ian Jackson, can you zoom out a bit as some of the images out of shot at the top? This is kind of what it looks like. Just a little bit of the corner. I can't zoom out since I've started, but I'm just going to scoot it over there. It's all in frame now. Thank you, though. Thank you for telling me. Okay, so for here on this flower, we've got, we're seeing just kind of the edge because it's overlapping the center. So I'm just going to start with a stroke like that just to kind of encompass that. And then I'm going to pull my petals in from there. We're going to be doing a lot of negative painting with this because we have a lot of spaces we're going to be painting around, like in our background and getting the centers in there. So that'll give you great practice for negative painting. Teresa Gonzalez, where did you get your pans and half pans?
They were so hard to find. I ended up having to order them from Jackson's Art and Craft in the UK. But what I did was I went through Amazon.com and they charged $3.50, $3.50 flat rate shipping fee. And you can order as many half and full pans as you want. I ordered I think I ordered 60 half pans and 40 full pans. And it was just that one shipping fee of $3.50. So I emailed them first. So I'm like, do I have to pay $3.50 for every one? But no, that wasn't the case. So, and it did take a little while to get here. It took probably a month, but I couldn't find any domestic sources for them. So either that or you can buy a cheap watercolor set and you can dig out the paint and do that, but that's kind of wasteful. So that's where I got mine. That's the only, and there's another place called Half Pan PH, which I haven't ordered from, but they're out of the Philippines. If you want to check that out.
The Whiskey Doodles. Yep. What watercolor papers do you recommend? Hot press, cold press, what brands do you use?
I generally will use cold press for most things. I'll use hot press for stamping. Usually if I'm using hot press, I use Fabriano Studio because I'm using it for stamping, and I find that to be very suitable for stamping, and it's very economical. Generally, though, I like a cold press or a rough watercolor paper for like landscapes, and I use Fabriano, Arches, the Langton. Generally, though, I find that a cold press is probably going to be the most versatile. And if you're not sure what to get, that's a kind of a middle of the road paper, and it's pretty good. Sometimes you'll see one that will have a smooth side, like hot press side, and a rough side, like Canson 100, I think it's called. Canson or Strathmore 100. Like, search both of them. Only one of them is going to be right. That has a smooth side and a rough side, and that's kind of useful. You know, if you can't decide, or if you have limited space or funds to keep paper on hand. Oh my, a popular place here today. Hopefully Jackson answers that.
He did. Susan Petro, my Cotman set has a Viridian included. I have not seen you use this color. What is it used for?
Viridian is a great color to mix with other things.
Oh, random number.
Yeah, random number.
Now.
I don't know. My goodness, maybe I should have Jackson answer that. It's probably the same. I don't recognize that number though. That's funny.
I don't answer if I don't recognize. Yeah. Jordan Sinclair, do you like the Prima Marketing watercolor pencils?
I love them. They're actually really awesome. Especially the skin tone set. The only thing you have to worry about with that set though, there are a lot of duplicates between the sets. So like, I think I have 72 pencils and I think only 40 of them are unique colors. So I think they learn their lesson after that because they don't do any more things that have duplicate colors. Everything is a new color, you know, in the sets, but for whatever reason, that's how that ended up. Okay, so that has got to dry. I'm just deciding if I can do anything else in the background while I'm waiting for that to dry. I think I'm going to do some really pale grasses and leaves in the background, and that way we can kind of get a little bit of a texture. I want a really soft color, so what I think I'm going to do is I've got some burnt umber on my palette. I'm adding quite a bit of water to it. I'm going to add some olive and some ultramarine, so that will give me a little granulation. Add a little more water because I can always drip some pigment into it if it's too dark. And I think I'm just going to throw in some little leaves, and I'm pressing and just kind of twisting my brush. And I want just a really soft. Put this little stem up here, do a few more. If you don't quite get it in one stroke, you can go back and fill it in. This is just some like kind of wildflowers, or wild grasses or whatever that are just kind of growing. You can leave lighter areas like I did there. I left that little highlight in there. I'm just going to try not to disturb my flowers too much.
Sarmed Mirza, have you ever used lapis lazuli? If yes, what did you paint with it?
Not the real stuff. I've used just like the modern ultramarine. Add a little more, do a little more green and burnt umber. I like that mix. It's not too bold. When you can start your strokes right off the edge of your paper or right on the tape if you are if you taped your paper down. It kind of gives it. It'll be really pretty when you take the tape off.
Joe Maysky, Lindsay, have you tried the mounting and wax coating method for displaying watercolors yet? Any pitfalls to watch out for?
I haven't tried it yet. I did buy the stuff, but I just haven't had a chance to do it. But you know, I did actually see some cradled panels at the Dollar Tree. They were 6x6. They had like inspirational quotes on them, and I thought those would be great to gesso because they're just like little wooden 6x6 wooden panels. I thought they'd be great to just gesso over and do that technique with. I'll soften the edge of that. I want to do some red, like some really pale red flowers too, and leaves too rather. Add a little burnt umber to that. And let's see. Very, very pale though. Just little grasses. Kind of like you might have some green, like shrubs and grasses and stuff, but in the fall they get a little redder. This will also practice your brush strokes. It's really handy for that. Starts to fill things up and give it a little more texture. All right, now I am going to dry this because I need to go in and get the center of the flowers done, and they're just going to be very messy if I don't. So if you have any questions, go ahead and I can answer them while I am drying.
Penny, no? It's French, I'm sorry. What size brush are you using?
That was a number 12 round.
Rupam Nida, have you used Statler Luna watercolor pencils? If yes, what did you think of them?
I've only used the regular Statler watercolor pencils. I'm not sure if those are different, but I think they're good value for the money. They're not the best pencils in the world, but they're certainly not the worst. They're not as soft as like the Prima or the Spectrum Aqua blends, which I think are probably about the same price. So I'd probably go for the Prima ones or the Aqua blends if you had to pick. But they're pretty easy to find because you can get them at office supply stores, and they're not bad. But it's been a long time since I've used them too.
Surmad Mirza, my daughter is asking if you have ever done a self-portrait or plan to do one.
I have done self-portraits in the past. I don't think I would do a video on one, although anytime I do a portrait where I don't have a reference photo, people say it looks like me.
Jordan Sinclair, I'm going on a trip this summer and I'm looking for a good watercolor set that doesn't cost too much in case I lose it. Are the Senlier La Petite sets good?
Yeah, I really like them. I actually,
Senlier.
yeah, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference between their student set and their artist set, just if painting with them was all I had to go by. They're very nice.
Cassandra Walton, what's a good cheap watercolor paint brush and brushes for beginners? I would like to get into painting.
I would say any synthetic that is not designed to mimic natural hair. These are probably not the best for beginners because they hold so much water that I think you can get too much water in your paint. Something like an Ebony Splendor or a Royal Majestic or Royal Aquilon, those are great. Anything like that. And they're not very expensive. So now I'm going to mix up some color for the centers, and I'm going to start off with a little bit of burnt umber. And I think I'll actually go ahead and put that right in the center first. And you want to kind of have the edges a little rough because you would have seeds and they would, you wouldn't have a smooth center. They'd be rough where you'd have the seeds poking up.
Joy Hawkins, do you like squirrel mop brushes for wet on wet?
I like the synthetic squirrel brushes like these. I have a squirrel mop, but it was a gift. I don't purchase fur brushes personally. I mean, they're fine for wet and wet washes. I think they're kind of expensive for considering there's such good options that are animal friendly available.
Well, I mean, if you ever want a real one, we always try and scare squirrels off from our bird feeders.
Oh, God.
There have been a few that got hit by accident.
I'm having some Gamboge
Got in the
here.
way of that BB
Jeez.
pellet bullet.
Poor little squirrels.
Well, they won't stay out of the freaking bird feeders, and we're not feeding them.
What's the difference between a bird and a squirrel? They're both helpless
Squirrels
creatures.
are destructive and pests. Encouraging Hope, can you recommend flat watercolor brushes?
Yeah, I like the you know what? I really like a flat that's got a scraper handle. I don't have one within reach, but those are great, and I think I know Jerry's has a few different brands, so you can get a synthetic of those. Neptune, Princeton Neptune makes one that's a really juicy one, and it has the aquarelle handle, and so it's a very similar brush to the Mimics, actually, very thirsty, wonderful brush, and you can either get it with a wooden handle or with the aquarelle handle, and I really recommend those because they're nice for scraping lines in your painting or pushing pigment away while you're working. So I would highly recommend checking that out if you don't have anything like that. I'm going to add a little bit of this Carmine into my center too. That was a bit much, so I'm going to grab a little bit of olive green to kind of counterbalance that. I didn't intend to work on an angle, but I've got something under there. Oh, my pencil sharpener. There we go. And I've got way too much red in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and blot some of that out. And clean my brush. Grab some violet. I like to have it darkest in the center and on the edges. I like to have different colors in there mixing and mingling, though, because it keeps it dark from being too dead.
Sarmad Mirza, where do you sell your art? Do your live paintings go on sale?
Yeah, I do. I have a shop in Brewer that I put my artwork out on. Usually, if the live paintings usually sell before they get out there, so just viewers will email me for them. So if you're interested, you can email me. My email address is on my YouTube channel in the About section, I believe. I think you have to enter like a CAPTCHA code or something to get it to prove you're not a robot. I got a big puddle here that I want to contend with. There we go. That gives a nice little texture to it as well. Nice to have texture in the middle of those flowers. So we're just going to keep on trucking along in this fashion, getting all of our centers in. I do clean my brush frequently because I don't want it to get too muddy. Now I pretty much just picked up the purple on its own, and look how it almost looks brown or black when I lay it over that yellow that's on the paper. I love those colors mixing together. They look really nice together. The purple makes the yellow really sing, so it's kind of a great way to kind of get that color theory in there, or make good use of color theory, I should say. I'm going to grab a little bit of a little yellow in there, I think. I think I'll get a little bit of the olive green in there. I like to kind of put them down separately and let them mix sometimes because it just gives you some interesting combinations. And if your brush isn't super wet, then your paint will pretty much stay where you put it and kind of stay in that vicinity.
Jasna Day, have you ever done watercolor paintings on a bigger scale than A4 besides the size? Bigger than A4 size?
I've done 22 by 30. That's the biggest I've done.
Delilah Bogart, what is the best way to frame a watercolor painting?
With a matte under glass. Just be careful when you're painting around the petals that you do leave a nice petal shape behind. Sometimes you have to kind of carve it out. You have to kind of almost redraw your petals if you've got a big blob. And I think I'm going to grab a little purple on its own. I really like how the purple looks against the yellow.
Tom Leach, have you used a hake brush?
I don't like those. They tend to shed. And again, they're usually animal hair, so I haven't gone looking for any, really. I have some that was a gift, but in like a set, I think like a Chinese brush painting set or something.
Delilah Bogart, question about framing. Can I just buy one, or does the store have to do it?
You can buy everything. You can buy a if you painted a standard size, you can buy a frame and a mat to fit and just adhere that with like I like to use some acid-free tape, and I just like hinge it, just like two little pieces of tape on the top of your watercolor to the back of the mat board, and then put some acid-free paper behind it, and you'll be good to go. Jerry's has some really great kits. If you I think they're called ambience or gallery. I'm not sure, but they're like, they are the gallery style framing that galleries usually like, but they always have them on sale. So if you are looking for an inexpensive frame, it's a great choice. It's got a plexiglass instead of real glass, or an acrylic instead of real glass, glazing in there. So it's lighter weight. You could always go get glass cut if you preferred it. But I use that a lot because it's not too expensive if I'm selling my work.
It's also good if you want to put the artwork in a kid's room.
Yeah.
When I worked in the framing, we would always see if someone said something about kids' room, we'd always recommend the acrylic or plexi, because if it does for whatever reason get knocked off the wall, it's not going to shatter.
Yeah.
It might crack, but it won't break into little pieces like the glass will.
Yeah. And so much lighter. And if you're taking it to shows, you don't have to worry about somebody kicking it.
Anna Callison. Lindsay, you mentioned before that Michaels carries a brand of watercolor brushes that are good for beginners. I forgot the name. Can you please remind me?
I think it's the Zen. They're by Royal Nickel. They're very juicy. They hold a lot of water. They also make them for acrylics, so you can get them either regular synthetic, which you could use with watercolors. The water will slide off a little bit more from them, but they will work, especially if you're a beginner, when you might be getting too much water if you use a really juicy brush.
Pragya Chauhan, have you ever made a twin painting?
A twin painting? What do you mean, like a painting of my twins? I don't understand the question, I guess. You think that's what he means?
Or like a double painting? I don't know. It just says twin painting.
I don't know. Or maybe two of the same paintings?
Maybe.
Clarify your question, please, because I'm not sure.
Bastet 469. What size paper would you use for your color chart binder, and how big should you make the swatches?
I would do 8.5 by 11 so that you can fit it into a regular binder and you don't have to buy anything special. And I don't know, my swatches are usually 1 inch by 2 inches, or right around there. I like to have enough of a swatch to be able to tell what the paint really looks like. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller round. I've got this number 4 round, and I'm going to mix up. So I'm actually going to clear a space so you can see what I'm doing, so I don't have to go to the other side of the palette. I'm going to mix some Gamboge, and oops, I got a drop of water on my paper. There. I'm going to mix some Gamboge and some Carmine. That's going to give me a nice, rich color to do some details on the petals, because I really didn't sketch them out very much, so I need to get those details, whatever details I want, in with the paint. Now here I can see that my center's still wet, but I think it might be cool to kind of let some of that paint wick up into the petals, so I'm not going to dry it. I'm going to let it do its thing.
Robin Burkemper, I have a brush I really like, except it sheds a lot. Any way to keep that from happening?
You can try like washing it with some shampoo and seeing if you can get every loose hair out of there, and that might keep it from shedding. If that doesn't work, you're gonna have to deal with a sheddy brush, I guess.
Surmad Mirza, have you ever struggled with discipline of painting, getting out of bed and getting to it? Do you consciously choose to work in a quiet, undistracted environment, or it doesn't matter so much?
I actually like to have something to listen to when I'm working, personally. Yes, you have to be disciplined. I don't just like wait for inspiration to strike. I get to work, because if you just wait for inspiration to strike, you're going to not get a thing done. You're just going to be sitting around waiting for that perfect moment, waiting for the perfect time. There's no perfect time. There's no perfect, draw anywhere, paint anywhere. If it's important to you, do it, because don't wait for the perfect time. It's not going to come. Yeah.
Especially if you have a family.
Yeah, exactly. I have my little watercolor travel kit in my car if I'm waiting to pick up a kid from practice, or I'm waiting at the doctor's office. I have something to do. I don't just wait for that perfect moment, because you can't count on the perfect moment. Gotta make your moment.
Lavon Erdo. What size quill brush do you suggest for your first one? They're expensive. Also, how does your paper stay wet long? I paint along, but my paper dries faster every time.
Well, it could be environment. You know, you might be living in a more arid environment. So, you know, that's something. Your paper might not have as much sizing, so it's sucking in all the water, and you're not getting a chance to, it's not staying dry for, staying wet for you. So that's probably what's going on. As far as a quill, I honestly do not really use quills. Because they're usually animal hair. I really think that nowadays with the synthetics, unless for whatever reason you absolutely want that brush, you can get a very similar quality for a fifth of the price if you get like a Mimic Squirrel or a Princeton Neptune, something like that, because you're paying because they had to kill an animal. Basically, you're paying because they had to raise an animal, then they had to kill it, and that's, you know, that's what you're paying for. They had to feed that animal, they had to bring it up, they killed it, they made a brush. That's what you're paying for.
Debbie Bryson, does Lindsay have a review for Coup Noir watercolor paint?
No, I never heard of it, actually. Koh-i-Noor?
Koh-i-Noor, yeah.
Yeah, I've never, I know they do a lot of pencils. I didn't know they did paint. So I do not have a review for that. I wonder if it's new.
I don't know.
Just trying to get kind of like the folds and creases in these flowers here. That might be a little too red, but I'm not gonna get rid of it. I'm just gonna adjust it and add a little more yellow to my mix. Oh, Chewy is licking my hand.
She's so happy to be here. Hi, Chewy. Yes. Yes, I know. Oh, because you just wanted to be slimed.
My hand is wet.
With love, with doggy love.
You can even pull some of that color in from the tips if you feel like you just need a little definition. Try not to do it too much because you don't want a hard edge. But it's okay to do it here and there just to, you know, pull it away from the background a little bit.
Carol Reed, if money was no object, what watercolor paints would you buy?
I really...
And do you prefer pans or tubes?
Tubes are easier to get, so it doesn't really matter actually to me. I like them both. It's just pans are, I think tubes might be a little bit more economical, quite frankly. I would say I really like M. Graham. They're not the most expensive though. Daniel Smith is probably one of the more expensive ones, and they're nice. But I think once you get into artist quality paints, they're pretty similar in price and quality.
Rupam Mida, I worked for a long time and I finally feel confident enough to sell. Do you have any suggestions for me? Where should I start?
Probably online because you have a bigger audience, but it's not easy. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably start with Etsy because you have a customer base there already, unless you already have a really active social media following. There's a lot of hustle. You've got to find your people and you got to get them to your store. At least if you start with a place like Etsy, they've got customers already who might happen across your work. But you have to definitely develop a mailing list. You have to get fans to follow you. You got to have a website so that fans can have something to follow, social media accounts. It's a lot of work, but that's what I would start. I would probably start listing some stuff on Etsy and then hustle to get followers on Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook. And I know a lot of people sell right on Facebook because they can have kind of a conversation with their fans, and they'll do like a Facebook group, and you know, maybe offer free tips or something to get people to join, and then they can sell directly there. That would be my advice, unless you already have a social media following and a lot of customers or people that are potential customers already. Then you could start just a regular Shopify or Volusion shop, and then just, you know, send out an email to all of your customers. But get that email list. That's the biggest thing. And get ready to hustle. Get ready to spend more time trying to sell than painting, basically.
Rebecca Corvo, do you ever do ink and wash?
Yep. Yeah, it's a great technique. That's a good plein air technique when you don't have a lot of time and you're out sketching or urban sketching, because you can get a lot of information down with a pen. I'm trying to keep my lines pretty painterly so that I don't get too fussy. All right, so now I want to do some background work where I'm going to be pulling. Oh, you know what I want to do before that? I want to get some little like flowers, kind of little leaves around the flowers. I think I actually want to go with the number 8 round and not the 12, because those tend to be a little bit smaller. These little green ones tend to be a little bit smaller, so I want to get those. And I'm going to do the olive green, but I'm going to also grab a little bit of ultramarine blue and have that right there next to it so I can grab it if I need it. And I'm just going to start, kind of press my brush and twist and pull.
Caroline Nelson, I have a lot of watercolor brushes, but no dagger brush. What would be a good versatile size?
Oh, let me see what this one is. 1/4 inch is great, or 3/8. The Princeton Neptunes are really nice for watercolor for a dagger because they're really soft and they hold a lot, and you can go a long way with them. And you can buy them individually. You don't have to get them in a set. I don't think they come in a set, actually. I think you have to get them individually.
Sermad Mirza, I saw your video on Geneva oil paint. I have just bought them. Will you consider doing a live painting with oil paints?
Yeah, I would consider that, definitely. Yeah, I was just thinking I haven't done oils in a while, and I'd kind of had a hankering.
Bestet469, which brand of sap green do you like? Do you like the yellow or orange based?
You know, I do like a sap green that has an orange in it. In fact, if you mix your Viridian or your Phthalo green with like a cad orange, it's actually very, very pretty green. I can't remember the pigment info on the Sennelier olive, but I really like it. It's a really rich, almost sappy color. I also like the M. Graham sap green an awful lot.
Michael Ann, I have a small piece of pre-cut mat board in my stash, but it has a bend in it. Can it be straightened?
Yeah, as long as it's not creased, it should be able to be. I'm just putting in a few little marks to show that it's like kind of like little leaves. Just you see the little tips of them on the other side of the flower there. I think I'll put a few bigger leaves in too, but I think I want to put them in. I'm gonna make a lighter color. So I'm gonna grab some lemon and grab a little bit of that green mix. And I think I want to put one here. Might as well put one over here since I just dropped some paint there. I'm going to add some ultramarine and olive into the bottom of that, let it kind of wick through. Just kind of covered up another leaf, but that's all right. Really, you want to be free with this. Try not to be fussy. I'll do a leaf over here. That lighter color in there. And just let the colors kind of float together. Put one here. Get that lighter color going in there first. You can always layer over more colors and darken them too. So if you feel like you've got something too light, you can remedy that real easy. But it's hard to softly lighten up something. Oops, I just grabbed purple. I don't want that yet. Clean that off.
Linda DB, can you explain what a beginner needs to know before using good watercolor brushes?
I would say just be careful with them. Just clean them. I mean, they'll last you a lifetime if you take care of them.
If they're wooden, don't leave them in the water.
You don't leave them in the water. That's a good one. Yeah, basically. Don't let them set in the water. Just don't like jam them down the bottom of your jar to clean them. Be gentle with them. Treat them like you would your own hair, as far as like cleaning them. And I let mine dry flat and like out on my table, and then I put them in a jar with the bristle side up. But you don't need any fancy contraptions for keeping them in good order. Some people will tell you you do. You don't. You don't need to hang them by their ends on some fancy brush hanging contraption. Unless you want to. Oh, I feel like I like that big leaf. I want another one, I think. I'm going to try to tuck it behind those little softer ones. Those tinier ones. So I'm just going to try to paint around there and keep it a little bit lighter so it kind of will show it behind there a little bit.
Jennifer Hopping, how do you clean your brushes? Soap and water or just water?
I just rinse them in my bucket unless they get like really dirty. Then I'll clean them with for watercolor brushes, I'll just use a mild like dish soap or shampoo, like baby shampoo, but generally doesn't need that. It's generally just fine the way it is. I'm going to add some small little leaves around here. It's going to help bring out the shape of those petals too. You can paint in between them, get those leaves in there in between, and then help get the edge of your flower defined.
Oh, so Lindsay, I thought of you.
Oh, yeah?
Last week, I ordered a t-shirt. It's a Doctor Who t-shirt.
Oh.
And it has the British flag like faded in the background with the TARDIS in front, and it says bow ties are cool on it.
Oh, cool.
I was like, because I'm usually not like a t-shirt buyer, t-shirt buyer of things, but I was like, bow ties are cool, and it was just,
that's awesome.
It's not like super bright, it's very faded, and it doesn't like scream like Doctor Who. Like people who know what Doctor Who is will get the shirt. The Whovians will understand.
Well, very cool.
Linda DB, when Lindsay says beginners shouldn't use Mimic Kolinsky because they're too juicy, why not?
Well, if you're a beginner, chances are using student paints, and you'll end up with a lot more water in there than you probably would necessarily want. Sometimes it's really hard to get the pigment to water ratio right with a student paint, and if you're a beginner and you're using a juicy brush like this, you're bringing so much water over to your palette that you might have really, really watery paint, and it can just be kind of be a little more trouble than it's worth for a beginner. And they're little they're not as springy as like a synthetic. I just think it's a much easier experience for a beginner to use a traditional synthetic brush. I mean, that's my opinion. You can use whatever you want. That's just from my vast years of teaching experience. Okay, so now I think I want to get some color, some purples around my flowers. I think I'm going to switch to a flat. I can use either of these. I think I'll actually rather have the shorter bristled one than the longer bristled one, just because I'm going to have a little more control with this, because see how longer, floppy, the squirrel ones are a lot floppier than the faux Kolinsky ones. So even though they're both synthetics, this is designed to mimic squirrel, so it's really floppy. This one is meant to mimic Kolinsky, which is a little snappier. Still not as snappy as a regular synthetic, which you could totally use. This is a 3/4 inch or so, I would say. And I am going to get, I'm going to load half of it in color. I'm going to clean this little space up on my palette though, so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to make a couple puddles here. I'm going to make a puddle of Dioxazine Violet. And I'm also going to grab some Carmine, because I think that pink is also going to make our greens really vibrant, look really good. So I want to have both of those on there. Clean my brush out, get some fresh water. And I think I'll start with some purple on the edge of my brush. This is called side loading. This is a great way to get some of the negative space, kind of take care of some of the negative space around our flowers. And it just helps fade out the edges when we do the side loading technique. Now, something you might want to do is actually have another brush that's damp and clean, ready to go, and then you can get that right on the edges and you can soften that out a little bit, because your dioxazine is going to want to stain. And another thing you can do is actually paint out a little bit further with water, and you could add color to that. You can add your purple to that and let it kind of flow. Just only add water where you want the paint to go. If you paint that purple on the dry paper, it's going to want to grab it and kind of stay there. So I'm thinking actually for this technique, we're going to be better off wetting the paper first. So I'm going to do a combination of side loading and wetting the paper first. So over here, I'm wetting around these leaves, and I'm going to switch to pink because they're going to make the leaves seem a little bit more vibrant. Cleaning my brush, blotting it gently, getting a side of that right into that pink, and applying it next to those green leaves. He hears crinkling bags.
Really hoping it's a treat for her. I think Jackson's just getting some more candy. Alex Sarah, I have a couple red cadmium paints and I do love them. I know they're poisonous. Do you use genuine cadmium? If so, what tips do you have for safe handling?
They're not as poisonous as you think. My tip would be just don't eat them.
No matter how delicious.
No matter how delicious they look, don't eat your paint.
They're not ketchup.
Yeah, it doesn't absorb through your skin, so you don't want to breathe it. You don't want to use it in an airbrush system or put it in a spray bottle with water and make your own mist with it. That's a big thing. You can ingest it. I mean, it's poisonous if you ingest it or if you breathe it in. So as long as you don't do those things, if you use it the way it's intended to be used as a watercolor paint, then I think you're going to be fine. I wouldn't let kids use it because they put things in their mouths. I think as long as you kind of keep aware of that, you're going to be fine. I know that leaf is wet, so I don't want to I'm going to go in that area with some of that color in a bit, but since that's wet, I'm going to skip around. I have to say I'm much more comfortable with a round, so I've gone back to this round brush. You can use whatever you want to use. We're doing a lot of little glazes with this negative painting because we want the texture that we've painted in these other leaves to show through. And I can just I can have a little bit more control, I find, with a round brush going around these, especially these little petals that's got the little indents for me to get around. And I just try to put the water down a little bit further than I actually want to go. Now just be careful if you're going over green that you don't kick up the green underneath too much, or it's going to mix with that red and it's going to give you mud. A little bit of mud's okay because we do want some neutrals in here, but we just don't want to have mud where we don't want it. think I want some more green up here. Whoa. I've got really dirty water buckets apparently because I just picked up some like purple sludge off the
When's
bottom.
the last time you cleaned those out?
Well, I've rinsed them this morning, but I didn't actually clean them. So
You know,
I think I need to clean them.
maybe that sometime. A little warm water and a little soap.
It's just really hard. I need something that I can get down in between. It has all these grooves in it for cleaning it, for like beating your brush against. And I just don't have anything I can get in there to clean those little grooves out.
Get one of those bottle brushes that has the cleaner things on the tip of it.
Oh,
like
that
you can buy
work.
the bottle brushes. It has like the bristles along the main part, but then on the top it'll have bristles on the top.
That's what I need, because I need something because I tried toothbrush, but it's not the wrong angle, and I don't want to like damage a good brush.
Because that's what John and I have for a bottle brush for like our water bottles and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So we can get the bottoms
right,
and it works really well.
Well, that's good to know. I'm gonna try that because if you're like a water bottle, stick a washcloth in there and take a knife and just kind of like jab around at it till it scraped all the stuff off the bottom. Yeah, we have hard water too, so we always get this weird sludge, it seems like. I mean, a lot of this is pigment, but I think there is like the iron in our water and stuff adds a lot of interesting.
Well, and water does get sludgy anyway, even if if it's just water, it sits around for a bit, it can get sludgy.
Yeah, it can. I'm adding just little pops of color where I think it just needs a little something. If you're wondering if something's dry or not, touch it with the back of your hand. If it feels cool, it's not dry yet. That's still cool. That's still cool. I think I can get in around here safely. You see, we got over 300 people here. That's pretty cool.
We've been averaging around 350.
Nice. That's good, even after my natural hair brushes rant. Sorry about that, guys. Got a little soapboxy there.
Alex Sarah, my 8-year-old daughter is getting into watercolor, and she is dying to ask you a question. She wants to know what supplies you started out with when you were little. She has the Cotman.
Cotman is a great option. I don't think it was around when I was small. I had Marie's Chinese watercolors to start off with, and a big plastic palette with a big mixing space in the center, and the top had a little storage area that stored all my brushes, which I only had a couple. I had a mop for wetting my paper, and I had a 1/2-inch flat and a No. 6 round. So those were synthetics, and that's all I needed for years and years to learn with. So that's what I started with. I'm going to go in. I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and try to get around those leaves.
Whoa, what is it, Friday or something?
I know.
It's crazy over here.
I'm living on the wild side. Actually, opera would be a really pretty color to use here. It's just that it's such a fugitive color that it will change on you if you hang it in light. And since I'm doing this big on nice watercolor paper, I want to be able to hang it in light. But that would be an interesting choice. If you're working in a sketchbook, I would say go ahead and try it, because if it's going to be kept away from light, you don't have to really worry about it changing. I don't think it's going to fade. I think it's just more going to darken. You're going to lose the fluorescence, but it would be really pretty. I think I'm going to start to meld this red down to purple a little bit down here. I'm still finding I didn't get quite the effortless look that I was going for, but I'm happy with the way this is turning out. It's certainly a less fussy than the one I did earlier, which is good.
Tiffany Gray, I'm excited to add some M-grams to my collection. Suggestions on how to purchase them. Amazon has M-gram tube 5 color set, 1/2-ounce tubes in groups of colors. Is this a good way to start?
Well, I don't know. You have to look at the colors that are offered in these sets and see if they're ones you're actually going to use or not. And see what you're paying per tube. Because even if you're getting one tube that you're not going to use, it's probably going to be better for you to buy them individually. but I don't know what kind of deal. You have to, you have to compare. You have to look at different shops and see what they're selling them for, and see what the shipping is going to be. And but most of all, you shouldn't buy it if it's not a color you're going to use, because it's just going to sit there, and they're not cheap. So, all right, I want to do a little darkening in the center. I think I might splash on a little. I think I will splash on some Gamboge while I'm thinking about it, because I feel like I want a little more texture. And I didn't do any salt or anything, so I'm just going to go right ahead and do that. And then I'm going to mix up burnt umber and ultramarine blue and get myself a nice granulating dark. I think I want to splatter some of this color on there too.
Rich is here, so he's enjoying.
Great.
The splatter. It's been a while, so it's good that we're splattering.
I know, I haven't seen him in a while. Well, I mean, I chat with him every once in a while, but I haven't seen him in a live show in a while. All right, so burnt umber, and you could also use burnt sienna if you don't have burnt umber, but I'm going to use burnt umber and ultramarine. Mix almost an inky black. And I'm going to go just kind of tap. You want to pounce so you can get a little bit of that texture. It's going to granulate a little bit, but I don't know if you're going to see that granulation because it's pretty dark and it's on top of other dark stuff. So you're going to tap in your darkest areas.
Debbie Ward, what is the purpose of splatter on the painting?
That's if you like the looks of it. I like the looks of it. You don't have to do it if you don't like the looks of it.
Bestet469, is dioxazine violet PV23 as fugitive as opera? Any suggestions for a more light, fast, dark violet?
It is not as fugitive as opera, but it is somewhat fugitive. I don't think it's terrible. I've never had a problem, to tell you the truth. And I have an iris hanging in my living room in bright daylight. It's been hanging there for probably 10 years.
I was gonna say, for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, it hasn't faded a bit.
I
get a lot of sunlight in there, so room. I don't think it's as bad as they claim. But you got to do what you're comfortable with. Yeah, you can always mix your own purple from light fast colors. Use ultramarine blue and use a permanent alizarin crimson or a quinacridone red, something like that. So you get a cool red and a purple and a warm blue, and that'll give you a good purple. It's just that the dioxazine violet is so potent. Look at this. I'll use this over here. It's just such a rich, beautiful, intense color that it's kind of tricky to mix a color that's that saturated.
It is really nice.
Yeah, but absolutely go ahead and mix if you're worried about the light fastness. There's
Sarah Soccer. I'm preparing to move away from Cotman paints. What artist grade paint do you suggest I try?
Well, if you really like the color line, if you like the colors in Cotman, if you go to Winsor & Newton's artist line, you're going to find the same exact colors, just with a stronger concentration. I noticed that Cotman used to use cadmiums and cobalts. They don't anymore, but you're going to notice an improvement. But you're going to notice they're the same colors, the same hue, but stronger. So if you already like that line, you can stay there. There's a lot of really good brands, though. I'd say any artist brand is going to be pretty good. Go for the colors that you're after.
I gotta use the back.
Sure. If you like something super vibrant, try Core or Mission Gold. If you like, Daniel Smith is also pretty vibrant. I would say look and see what you have available to you where you live that's a reasonable price. That's an artist company that you recognize, because most of them are pretty darn good. There's subtle differences, and I use all sorts of brands, and you can mix and match them. You could buy, I love Daniel Smith's French Ultramarine. It's super granular and beautiful. So, get that by that brand. Try something else from another brand. You don't have to just stick with one color. I want to add some green streaks in the bottom of this flower here, because I'm seeing cast shadows against the flowers here, and I want to get that in there. School vacation, the phone rings off the hook practically. Throwing in some more little wispy green leaves, or I think they ought to have some. And I'm just going to take a look here and figure out what else I want to put here. I think that maybe I'm going to take some of this violet mud here, but I'm making purposeful mud. I'm taking some of this red, the Carmine, a little bit of violet, some of that green. So I'm making kind of like a warm brown. And I'm feeling that some of these flowers, I just need something to pull them out to keep them from being yellow blobs. And I'm just going to, anywhere I feel like I don't have enough definition between the flowers, I'm adding that color. We have any questions backing up?
I'm getting back right now.
Okay.
Patty Picasso, will you be doing any more art marketing videos? The craft fairs are starting up in a few weeks.
I don't have any planned, but I wouldn't rule them out. I almost feel like I've said everything I need to say in the videos I've already done. I do have quite a long playlist. If there's a specific issue that you're having or a question that you have, I do have a lot of videos in the art marketing playlist that you can check out. And I don't think much has really changed, so I would go give those a look. And if I think of something new, I will put them out there. I like dragging that center color out because it's almost inky.
It looks like it might rain. It was all sunny and now it looks all cloudy outside.
I think it's supposed to. All right, I think I'm ready to call this done.
Done?
What do you think? Done?
I think it looks done. I think if you go any further, you'll end up with too much.
Yeah, I think
not,
so.
Not walking away.
Take off. I love taking my tape off when I'm done.
And people like watching you take the tape off because sometimes they feel like they have a hard time with it.
I find that the cheapest masking tape from the Dollar Tree works the best for this because it's like not super sticky and it just seems to work great. And I don't have to, spring for the blue painter's tape. I don't know, maybe I just got a really low-tech batch, but it seems like anytime I buy the tape there, I get a pretty good, removable tape. Well, there you have it. I love seeing the white border. I don't often take the time to tape it down, but I did today. So there, I'm just going to sign my name and I'll be all done with this. I want to thank you guys for checking out this video today. If you have any questions that I didn't get to, you can leave a comment under the video after the live stream is over. If you need any of the supplies that I used, I just have left my paintbrushes in the water. Got to take those out.
And they're your wood handle
They're
ones.
my good ones. Look at those, leaving those in the water. Shame on me. Yes, if you need any of these supplies, check out our sponsor, jerrysartorama.com. They have everything you need and more. And if you are looking for paper or canvas, they have an extra 10% off. Their sale prices even through tonight. So the coupon code's right on their website. I don't remember it right off the top of my head, but anybody can access that. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. And until next time, happy crafting.